on this wood, Dad. Okay? Help me, Dad. Help me.
I'll help you build a table, bud. One of the upsides of working with the fruit tree wood is the incredible grain and figure and just the awesome look of the wood. The downside is years of pruning stress and fruit weight and all these different things have created a lot of tension. It tends to crack. One of the ways I've been dealing with the cracking problem to save slabs like this case happens to be mulberry wood, is the breadboard end. The breadboard end is very easy to make. It works really, really well at holding the slabs together, and it can create a nice accent on either end of the slab. This is the slab I'd like to use, and it has a number of defects. You'll notice that right through the center we've got some pretty deep, in fact they go all the way through, cracking. And then you've got this split over here, which is rather substantial. But none of that really matters for what I'm about to do to it. To prepare the slab, I have rough sanded it so that it's nice and flat and smooth as best I can get it. And then I have cut that edge right there square with a skill saw. I just clamp on a straight edge and zip it across. Next, in the table saw, I've put in the stacked dado set. It's about 5/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch coming out. It doesn't really matter to me. I'll just make my groove whatever it is. Because my wood isn't square, I'm going to have to hold it down really, really hard. And that's putting an awful lot of pressure right near the spinning blade. So what I'm going to use is a rubber texture trowel. And you can get these at any home store. And this allows me to push down with a tremendous amount of force, flexing that board flat and keeping my hands a little farther away. It's always best to run it through the saw maybe 3 or 4 times, making sure you're pushing down nice and firm all the way, and that helps even out any wobbles or lifts that it might have had the first time around. Nice thing about this is even though this board has a gentle bow to it, as soon as I hammer that breadboard end on, it'll flatten it right out and hold everything together nice and tight. Cutting the breadboards, or rather the breadboard ends, is really very easy. It's just a groove plowed in whatever wood you would like to use. In this case I'm using birch. This is white birch, came off our farm. Anyways, I just plow the groove, the proper thickness, sneak up on that. I don't use a dado blade, I just, offset the saw blade a little bit each time, and then you rotate them. You do both sides. First this side against the fence, then that side against the fence, so that the cut is even. And like I said, sneak up on it, because it's very easy to go too wide. Depth isn't quite so hard. If you go too deep, it's really easy. You just take a whisper off of this edge right here until you're back down. If you've got your groove a little loose, you might even try some Gorilla Glue in there, because it will expand and that'll help tighten up your joint. This joint's nice and tight. I don't need any of that. With your ends clamped, now it's time to go in and have lunch, or if it's quitting time, have a beer, or possibly both. So here's the breadboard finished, and I left it both long and thicker than my wood. And so what I'll do is bring these corners, round them off, and then I'll sand the whole thing back down flush with the board. That's why I always leave my end boards just a little thicker than the wood I'm working with. The base of the table is a simple box frame. This one just happens to be long and narrow. It'll be attached to the underside with pocket screws so you can't see it. And then the legs will attach onto that. To attach the top using the pocket screws, you just need to find the right length. In this case they're 1 inch, and get a big extension bit of some sort. And that's all there is to it. So here I am set to glue up the legs, 2 legs 16 inches long, and I've thrown a chunk of cherry there off center in the middle just to add a little bit of color. Because everything was nice and straight, I want to keep the clamping pressure really very light. I don't want to cup these, and you can see I'm using the vise there to hold down a board that decided it needed to lift up. But other than that, we just need to let her dry. They never stay square after glue up, so you have to retrim the sides. With the sides square again, I can trim the ends to length. And I only need to do one end because I'll just cut the other against the fence. Here's what we're going to cut out of the legs. Remove those 2 spots. I've put a sort of a hip on the table, and then your big farm 90-degree arch there. And there's a hip right there. That's sort of a classic form. You can do whatever you would like, including leaving it very, very stocky if you want to. The only thing that's really kind of important is the leg spread, because you want it to only touch here and here. These are a little dainty by my standards, but it'll be okay. It's a dainty sort of table. It's not going to stand up to coffee table sex or anything like that. It's not what she's made for. I attach the finished, sanded, shaped legs with glue and some drywall screws. There are the legs attached and braced, so maybe it would stand up to a little coffee table sex. Nothing too vigorous though. At this point you want to flip it over and set it on a level surface and check it for wobble. So adjusting the wobble is really easy. You're going to take a little bit off the bottom of this foot and a little bit off the bottom of that foot and check it again. And you'll just go back and forth, usually with just a palm sander, back and forth until it sits level. This isn't bad here. And that's just one of the aspects of working with a natural edge slab table. Wood moves. With the final sanding done, now it is outside to blow it off with the air hose and spray it. And I'm going to be using a semi-gloss polyurethane floor finish to spray it today. Thinned out about 25, maybe 30% thinner. So it's a little thin, takes a few coats, but it works really nice. It gets in all those cracks and seals it up pretty well. And it's very, very durable and also easy for the end user to touch up if they ever have to. First, we need to clean it off. When it comes down to spraying, I use a pressurized, just an air sprayer, and I should be telling you all to suit up and mask up, but personally I'm more a fan of the you hold your breath and just do it school of thought. You can already see the beautiful color coming through, though a number of coats will certainly make it richer. This is the first of about 5 on the top, and once this hardens up I'll flip it over and I'll do the first one on the bottom. Almost done. Can you say hi?
Hi.